Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Desktop Central's free training. Before I begin, I would like to confirm if you can hear me and view the presentation. You can confirm it via chat. Perfect. I just got a few confirmations. So here we go. I'm Raja. I've been with Desktop Central for the past 8 years. And as most of you are aware, this is a 7-week training program, and we are on week 4 for remote control. In case, if you believe that you have missed few of the previous presentations, there is nothing to worry. You can always view the previous recordings in our website. It is available under desktopcentral.com/training.html. Let me repeat. In case if this is your first free training program, you have missed out the previous recordings, you can always go back to our website at desktopcentral.com/training.html so that you can listen to our previous recordings. Okay? So week 4, remote control. Here is our quick agenda on our 60 minutes tour. So we are going to begin with an overview of what Desktop Central is, how remote control works. Then we'll move out, to few real-time use cases. We have cherry-picked few real-time use cases, which are quite common in every enterprise, like resolving help desk tickets, to probably install a software, or say troubleshoot or specific requirements like Wi-Fi related issues, then troubleshooting system slowness, enforcing security policies, and sending out critical notifications. Probably your mail server is down and you still wanted to update a lot of your users with some critical information. So we'll be discussing about these real-time use cases, followed by which we'll also have few common scenarios and solutions. And of course, at the end of this session, we will be discussing about various questions, the frequently asked questions. When I say questions, I would also like to remind you, anytime during this presentation, if you have any questions, you can feel free to post it on the chat panel. So we have few experts right here who will be handling your questions then and there. Let me repeat, if you have any questions during this presentation, you can feel free to post your questions, which will be answered then and there. So let's begin here. Supported operating systems. Desktop Central supports all the 3 major operating systems, that is Windows, Mac, and Linux. And of course, remote control feature can be used for all the 3 major operating systems. So let's take a quick overview on Desktop Central's architecture. I'm not sure if every one of you are familiar, so I'm just going to give you a quick introduction or probably a brief overview on the architecture. All you have to do is just to install the Desktop Central server in your primary location. Assume it's going to be a head office or your primary location. The first thing that you'll have to do is to install the Desktop Central server. So once the server is installed, then you'll have to install a lightweight component called agent on the computers that you wanted to manage. So these agents will periodically communicate with the server to pick up the task. It could be like any task related to patching software or any on-demand operations like establishing a remote control or executing certain on-demand requirements. Okay, so assume you have multiple remote locations. Your server is installed in your primary location. However, you'll have to manage computers which belongs to different remote offices. In such occasions, you can customize your settings by installing a distribution server. You might be wondering what a distribution server is and is it mandatory? So let me explain it to you. Assume you have 20 computers or somewhere beyond 20 computers in your remote location. So every computer that is being hacked, the desktop central server to receive all the data. When I say data, it could be the patches, the software binaries, whatnot, all these configurations, installables. So instead of 20 computers directly communicating with the desktop central server via internet, you can choose to install a distribution server. So this distribution server will interact with the desktop central server and replicate the binaries, which means the whole purpose of a distribution server is to customize your bandwidth. Let it be a patch or a software binary. Whenever you want to install an application, the software binary is replicated or the patch is replicated from the desktop central server to the distribution server. Then it is distributed in the local LAN. So the choice of installing a distribution server is completely left to you. If you feel that you wanted to limit your bandwidth, you want to optimize your resource, then you can install a distribution server in your remote office. Now that we have been talking about distribution server, you might also have questions on how to manage our roaming users, because most of the employees today, probably from sales department or marketing folks, they keep traveling. So next question would be obviously how to manage those roaming users. And what if I have users who work from home? Yes, you can still create a different remote office for them and see to it that these computers have direct connection to the internet and they reach out the desktop central server, which means you can obviously manage all the computers of roaming users using desktop central. So when I say this, you can manage roaming users using desktop central, you might always have a question. What if when I expose my server to internet, how secure is it? So here is my next slide, which gives you an answer. So what you can do is you can install a forwarding server. We provide you a secure gateway component called a forwarding server. This can be installed on your DMZ. So installing this forwarding server will secure all your communication between the WAN agents. When I said WAN agents, these are the roaming users or work from home users who directly connect to the internet and reach your desktop central server. So this forwarding server not only acts as a secure gateway, it also acts as a honeypot, which means you need not be worried about exposing your desktop central server to the internet. You need not be worried about the security concerns where any intruder can get into your server. So installing a forwarding server gives you the privilege to manage roaming users, work from home users, and whatnot, even mobile devices. All right. So now let's look into the different types of agent installation. We were discussing about installing lightweight components called agents. So you might have a question, how do I install the agents? We have several methods of installing agents. Here are the top three that I would like to insist on. You can either choose to automate the agent installation from the desktop central console, which means you can actually integrate the Active Directory with desktop central server so that all the computers which are a part of the Active Directory will be listed on your desktop central console. You can choose the computers where you'll have to install the agents, and you can remotely push the agents from the desktop central console. Or you also have the options where you can go down, manually download the agent on the client computer and install it. You want to automate this process using a script? Yes, you can well do that. Since we spoke about Active Directory, you can also leverage the GPO policy. You can create a GPO policy and you can install agents using group policy as well. So we were discussing about the complete architecture. Then we moved on about how to secure the communication. We also discussed about installing agents. Right after which, we'll have to definitely discuss about how frequent is this communication between the agent and the server, so that you'll have to understand how this interaction between the agent server works. We have something called as a 90 minutes refresh policy. So why do we claim it as a 90 minutes refresh policy? Any idea? That's because we really wanted to optimize the bandwidth. Assume I have 9,000 computers in my network, and all the 9,000 computers try reaching my server at the same second. You should imagine with the recent updates, Microsoft releases patches, where the size is about 2 GB. So 9,000 requests trying to grab 2 GB from your server. That's really going to be costly, correct? So what we do is, we have a policy which automatically distributes the load between the agent server communication. Assume I have 90 computers. One computer will reach the server every minute. If it's going to be 900 computers, again, it's going to be 10 computers communicating with the server. And the proportion goes, equally. It's equally distributed for the 90 minutes, which means your total number of computers will not overload the server, whereas it will be evenly distributed, and the communication will be seamless. All right. So now that we got to know about the basic architecture, the workflow, these are the components that we'll have to run through. I'm just giving you a quick recap of the components that we specified during this architecture. So server is, of course, an essential component which we are going to install on your primary location. Agents are those which we are installing on the computers which needs to be managed, that is the client computers. And what is this notification server? We were discussing about 90 minutes refresh policy where the agent communicates with the server. What if I have a requirement where I'll have to perform some on-demand operations? I said all my agents are going to reach the server only once in 90 minutes. So does it mean that I can perform operations only once in 90 minutes? Definitely not. That is where this notification server comes into picture. So this notification server will allow you to perform operations on demand. Assume I want to establish a remote connection. I do not wait for 90 minutes. I can do it right now, which will, invoke the process and initiate the connection immediately. So whenever I want to perform any on-demand operation, it is not just for remote control, be it installing application or pushing out patches or scanning your computer, for license compliance. All of these can be done immediately using the notification server. Distribution server, of course, we had enough discussion on it. This is absolutely optional. Just in case you wanted to optimize your bandwidth, you can install a distribution server. But I would personally recommend you to have a distribution server in case you manage computers, quite a handful of computers in your remote location. Then comes forwarding server, which is the secure gateway component. This is again optional. The choice is yours. With the requirement in security, vulnerability, and threats around, you can very well go ahead and choose it. Here comes failover server. So I'm sure the name explains it itself. Just in case you're worried about your productivity, what if your main server goes down? We wish that never happens. However, you need to have BCP, business continuity plans in place. So keeping that in mind, we can also configure a failover server, which will, interact with your primary server all the time. A failover server brings in a secondary server, which is going to constantly communicate with your primary server, so that any point of time, if your primary server goes down, your secondary server will automatically take control on all the operations, and your complete management process, will go uninterrupted. So you can expect zero downtime when you configure a failover server in place. And multi-language pack, of course, Desktop Central, you can use it. It is available in various languages. You can choose your local language when you use your Desktop Central server. So these are the optional components. So we have run through the basic architecture. We have come across the basic overview. In case you have any questions so far, you can feel free to post it in the chat. All right? Okay. Now, here is an interesting requirement. Most of the customers came back saying Desktop Central is an on-premise solution. However, I wanted Desktop Central to be hosted on my private instance. So that is wherein we brought the feasibility. We integrated with Amazon's, cloud as well as Azure. So you can host Desktop Central's instance on Amazon or Azure, as the architecture shows here. Once your server component is installed on the cloud, you can, however, start managing your roaming users or computers which are part of your network. So in such occasions, as I said earlier, installing a distribution server would be a nice option or a wise option so that you can optimize your bandwidth. we have been discussing about the complete architecture, and this is not going to be complete without specifying the ports that we'll have to use. So Desktop Central runs on port 8383 for secure communication between the server and the agent. Notification server takes port number 8027, and 8443 is used for various tools, including remote control and various tools. All right. To get to know more details about the ports, you can always visit our website, desktopcentral.com/ports. I repeat, you can find the link at the bottom. It's going to be desktopcentral.com/ports, where you will find a huge list of the ports that are required. And of course, you'll also have the reasons. Why do we use it? What is the purpose? And should it be inbound or outbound? You can get all those details on the web page. Now we are moving out to few cherry-picked use cases. We're going to discuss about why and how do we use Desktop Central's tools and remote control to perform certain operations. So the first scenario is about resolving help desk tickets using Desktop Central's remote control, then about system slowness, enforcing IT policies, and sending out critical notifications to users. So before we get into the use cases, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it on chat. So this is the first requirement. They're going to resolve help desk ticket where assume there's an end user called Bob. He has created a help desk request, and the ticket has two requirements. First one is installing Adobe Acrobat app, and second one is troubleshooting his Wi-Fi connectivity. So he has got some problems with Wi-Fi, and he wanted Adobe Acrobat app to be installed on the computer. So this request from Bob reaches a help desk portal. We have got SDP, that is Service Desk Plus, one of the ManageEngine's Service Desk tool, and assume it is assigned to a technician called John. So I'm going to impersonate John right now. I'm going to become John right here, and I'm going to see how I'm going to help Bob to resolve this help desk ticket. Okay. So even before I get into this troubleshooting, let me give you a quick overview on how remote control works. Usually, we imagine remote control is just a click of viewer's machine on the remote computer. But what happens at the back end is what we are discussing right here. So whenever a request is created, assume this is John, technician 1, and I use my own laptop. It's going to be my either my PC or I log into some other PC, and I try establishing a remote connection. A request from technician 1's computer, which is actually a viewer's computer, is initiated, and it is sent to Desktop Central server. So Desktop Central leverages the notification service, and then this communication is established back to the target machine. So once the target machine receives the command for remote session, there the agent, the Desktop Central agent on that computer will initiate the remote service, will start capturing the screenshots of that particular computer, and the screen captures will be sent back to the Desktop Central server. When these screen captures are sent back to the server, it reaches the gateway, and those screen captures are transmitted back to the Desktop Central console, which means the viewer machine. So John, being John, I'm initiating a request. My request is actually routed through the Desktop Central server. It reaches the client computer, and running screen captures are shared back to the server, and of course redirected back on the viewer's machine. This is exactly how the remote control works. So you might be assuming, now I have technician 1 and I also have technician 2 by the side. Yes, Desktop Central allows you to establish remote connection in a collaborative mode. When I say this, multiple technicians can join the same instance of a remote session. So assume you have 5 technicians. Yes, all the 5 technicians, if required, can join a same remote session. So when the second request is raised from a different technician, the request is not taken down to the client computer, whereas Desktop Central server identifies that there is an existing live connection, and the data is actually shared to multiple requests, which means technician 1 and technician 2 will receive the data from the Desktop Central server. Okay, so let me take you to the product to give you a quick overview, or probably, not to say a quick overview, let us experience it from the product console. So I've logged in here as John, and this is Desktop Central's product console. I'm just logging in here. Okay, this is Desktop Central's product console. You have all the features here, probably which we would have discussed during every individual training program. So before I establish a remote connection, I'll first have to ask permission so that I can establish a remote connection on Bob's computer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on chat. All right, and here we go. I'm going to find the list of available users. So towards the right, I have an option where I can search for the user. I'm just trying to repeat it for you, just to capture it. I clicked on Tools, and I chose Chat. And after choosing Chat, I went down to Search. And based on the username, I'm going to search for Bob. Okay. Here we go. Bob. All right. So I have Bob available here. Okay. I'm going to initiate a text chat to Bob. It says Bob has logged on in multiple computers. So I'm going to choose one particular computer where Bob is available. Probably let me pick this one. I'm initiating a chat request. Yes. So just to optimize time, I've got the data keyed in here. I'm just going to inform Bob. Here we go. I'm going to say, hi, Bob, this is John. I want to establish a remote connection. Would it be the best time? Let's wait for Bob's reply. Is Bob around? Is he going to come back to me? Yes, perfect. So I've got permission from Bob, which means I can go ahead and establish my remote connection. So I'm simply going to close this chat session. Now let's head back to the product. For you to get comfortable, I'm clicking on Tools again, just to make it familiar for you. And I'm going to choose Remote Control. Here we go. And what do we do next? I'm sure you would have assumed I'm going to search for Bob. Hold on. Before that, I have few information that I'd like to share it across. So there are a couple of options that you can choose from. We have HTML5 technology. We would recommend you to use HTML5 viewer to establish your remote connections. So now let's go back, search for Bob. Where am I? Okay, here we go. Bob. Okay, we're all set. So I'm establishing a remote connection is all that simple. I'm going to click on Connect right now. Oh, what is this? It's going to throw up a box. It's going to ask me a reason for this connection. So what am I supposed to say here? I'm supposed to say that this is in particular with reference to the ticket number that Bob has created. I'm going to throw up a ticket number. Probably Bob had a ticket number like 489, and this is for troubleshooting, whatever. So I'm simply going to click Connect. What is this now? So I have established a remote connection, and I could see that Bob is using multiple monitors. I can obviously go and choose which monitor I wanted to view. I've chosen the monitor. In case I want to swap the monitors, I can do it right here. All right. So we are all set. You can just scroll down, or probably scroll towards your left where you find a list of options. These options are going to be very, very helpful for you during your remote session. Trust me, it is going to work magic for you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as a full screen view so that I can have a complete view on Bob's screen. Okay. So before I start troubleshooting his computer, I'm sure Bob would be very keen to know what kind of operations does a sysadmin do to troubleshoot these basic issues. Though it might sound really a wise idea, I would not recommend, recommend the viewers, the client users, to view the remote troubleshooting all the time. This could be because of various reasons. We would have to use certain license keys. We would have to use our domain credentials. or there would be certain chat folders which we might not want them to be aware of. In such occasions, I have a couple of options that I can choose from. The first thing that I can do is I can simply go ahead and blacken the monitor. So when I do this blackening the monitor, the remote monitor, which means Bob will not be able to view anything on his computer. All right. So Bob shouldn't be worried about it. Just in case I wanted to inform him, I can again use the chat facility within the remote control, and I can inform Bob that I'm going to establish connection and I'm going to disable his inputs, be it his keyboard or mouse. Because many times when you start troubleshooting, users might not know, and they would start, moving around with your keyboard or mouse operations would interrupt us. So I've thrown up a message to Bob, and your screen will be probably blackened during the remote session. So Bob has given me an approval. I think Bob is quite active. I'm going to close this right now. Yes. So now that I've got permission from Bob, let me close my window too. All right. So now that I've got permission from Bob, I'm simply going to disable the input. Either I can do that or I can blacken the monitor. If I choose to blacken the monitor in the first place, the remote keyboard and mouse will be automatically disabled. Okay. So remote monitor has been blackened. So now that Bob is not viewing whatever operations that I'm going to perform right here, I can simply go back, use these advanced tools, and start, installing a software. So the first requirement was to install Adobe Acrobat. So it does require license keys. In that case, we have a wonderful feature called file transfer. Okay, I'm just going to click on file transfer. So this allows me to transfer files from one computer to other, even during the remote session. Certain installables, it's not just for the license keys, certain installables, there would be a requirement where you'll have to copy them locally on the end user's machine, even before you execute certain operations. So during such occasions, you can always choose, to pick those installables. I've got a license key, probably a license key right here. I can choose it. I can, move it into one of the folders that I wanted to. Assume I'm going to choose it here, and if I push it right over here, I'll have the license keys moved into the particular folder. So now I can go down to his own desktop, Bob's computer, locate the folder, install the executables using the license keys or whatever supplementary files that I require. So now that I've completed my installation of the software, then troubleshooting the Wi-Fi. I try handling it, but at times I believe I would require an expert's advice. So this is where I can call up, for somebody, one of my friends or colleagues or one of my supervisors for help. So I'm going to call up Peter right now. Peter is an expert with networking. He's too good in troubleshooting Wi-Fi related issues. So I've informed Peter right now. Assume I'm going to make a call personally, and I'm going to tell him that I'm in a remote session. I need your help to get this resolved. So let's log in as Peter from a different console. I've got a different browser. Let me check it out. Here we go. So here I'm going to log in as Peter. You can find me here as Peter. All right. So Peter is getting into remote control, and Peter is going to search for the technician, or say, let's do this way. I'm going to search for the user, Bob again. So when Peter, being the second technician who's going to join the first session, he could see there is an existing connection that exists. He's simply going to click on View Desktop. So John is already sharing his desktop. Do you want to continue? Yes. Again, you've got the options listed here. And Peter right now is in view only mode. Peter can choose to use active mode. Under actions, you can choose active mode, which means Peter will have control over the remote session, and Peter can start troubleshooting this particular requirement. So assume Peter has completed his troubleshooting requirement and everything is good to go, and Peter signs off from the remote session. So now that Peter has completed, let's go back as John. Peter informs John, and John is convinced that the process is done. You can simply go down and inform the end user. So before I inform the end user, I'll have to remember the end user will not be aware of anything that is happening right now. So I'm going to revoke this monitor. So now that I have revoked the monitor, Bob would be in a status to view whatever operations that I do right now. I can simply go back to Bob, again initiate a text chat, and I can inform Bob that the issue has been resolved. I've installed the requested software and the Wi-Fi has been fixed. So here we go. I've just thrown up a message to Bob. So Bob is going to check and get back to me. I'm waiting for Bob's reply. Oh, great. I've got a reply from Bob saying, thank you. So I'm done with this troubleshooting. All right. So I'm going to close this remote session. Okay. So now let's head back to the presentation. A quick recap on whatever we did. We started with a user confirmation. We asked permission where even before we initiated the remote session, we asked for Bob's permission. And once Bob agreed for a remote session, we went ahead with the remote connection. We chose to use HTML5 viewer. Then we did revoke access from Bob. We also had Peter joining us in a multi-viewer collaborative session, and not to miss out on the file transfer capabilities that the remote control has. We were able to, copy few installables, license keys, and complete the deployment. I hope I've made it clear. Just in case, if you feel that you have any questions, if there are anything that you feel is not covered yet, you can feel free to post your questions. Okay. Great. Now, we are moving out to the second use case, troubleshooting for system slowness. This is a global issue. Every time, no matter how efficient the computer is going to be, how latest the technology is, users come back, very often saying, my system is slow. System slowness is a global issue. So how do we troubleshoot a machine for system slowness? Let us see the options that Desktop Central offers you on how to troubleshoot system slowness. We're going to run through the product again to perform various operations like verifying the services and process on the computer, then about viewing the events that happen on the computer and whatnot. Let me take you back to the product. Here we go. So again, I'm here with that. I would also like to mention that you can find the recent activities that we have performed, okay, which is listed down here under activity feed. So now all that we'll have to do is just to go down and troubleshoot one particular computer. So what I'm going to choose System Manager. This is an advanced tool which is going to help me to troubleshoot one particular machine. So let me give you a simple example. I'm going to pick this machine. Say it is, I'm going to click Manage, and you have a huge list of options that I can choose from. This allows me to verify what are the processes, which are currently running on this particular computer. I can also check for the services. I can use this feature, remote command prompt, where I can start executing commands on the remote computer's command prompt. I can get into the registry settings, view file manager. I can get into event viewer and a lot more. So let me give you a better view. So starting with processes. So this gives you a fair understanding on the processes that runs on the machine. I can verify if any of the process is actually the root cause of the system slowness. I can still go down, sort out, the data. I can see what is the idle time. I can verify what kind of memory is being used. I can sort it out based on memory. If I find anything that I wanted to I want to kill a particular process, I can simply go down, kill the process, I can execute all these operations. Now, coming down to services, of course, you have a lot of services. In case you have suspicious of one particular service, you can definitely go down and search it by name. And you can also perform operations like you want to kill a service, you want to stop it, restart it, all those operations can be performed here. And this is the ability to perform, execute commands on the remote command prompt. And finally, we are moving out to registry here. I'm sure if you really wanted to get down, configuring the registry settings, check it out, you can do that as well. File manager, I think 60 minutes is definitely going to be insufficient for me if I get into every module of every capability of remote controls and tools. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick overview, not hitting through every single slide, but again, I'm just trying to give you a quick recap. So you can look into all the event log alerts in case you wanted to know if there is anything critical about security. You can, of course, go ahead and do that. You can view the data, you can view the message. You wanted to filter the data, you can do it. You can sort them out. Okay, so you have a lot of options that you can perform using our system manager. So now that I have used my system manager to run through the basic verification, and I don't find any alarming notifications here. There is something which is warning, but I don't find it to be so alarming. So assume that I really wanted to go down and verify if the problem lies on the system's memory. So let me take you back to tools. I have a different tool which is going to help you. The first one was system manager. Now we're going to pick on system tools. All right. So I've already created a configuration here so that I don't spend much of time creating new configurations. I'm going to click on modify, and here you go. So you can perform various operations like verifying the disk. You can verify it using various modes, a quick check or a verbose mode. Then you can run on disk cleanup. When I say disk cleanup, you can customize your requirements to clean up the temporary files or the cache memory or the log files. You can also configure defragmentation. So you can schedule these tasks. Once these are done, you can simply go ahead, choose your target, confirmation. So assume I have configured the settings, and I just wanted to make sure that these are executed in a specific point of time. I can schedule the target. I can say this is applicable for this particular computer. Assume it's for Bob, I can do it for Bob. If I want to make it more proactive, I can go down and apply these configurations to my complete work group or custom group or even your remote office, which means this is going to happen for all the computers periodically, and this is a proactive measure where you ensure the system is kept clean all the time. You can also schedule your requirement. Okay, you can customize it and say, when should this task happen? Okay, you can specify all your requirements. You can also use the credentials like, I want to perform this operation as an administrator. Yes, let me go ahead and do it. So now that I've configured all the basic settings, I'm done with this. I'll have to go back and inform the user. Say, assume it's Bob, I'll have to inform Bob that yes, I've configured everything is set for you. We have been using chat so frequently, so this time for a change, let me pick a different user. I'm going to choose a user called Mark. Okay, where am I? So here we go. I'm going to choose a user named Mark. Let's just go and search for Mark. Okay, here we go. So now that I've completed scheduling this operation, I wanted to inform Mark that I've completed this operation. So instead of going with a conventional text chat, let me also show you the advanced capabilities like voice and video call. We also have the feasibility where you can communicate with your end user using voice or video call, because this requirement was brought in based on many customers' requests. There are several organizations where they don't entertain users bringing in their cell phones. that is because of their own network security or various reasons. So in such cases, you can use these these options like voice call or a video call. I'm going to invoke a video call right now to Mark. Hope Mark is there to answer my call. Okay, so I guess Mark is here. Yes, Mark has answered the call, and Mark is actually going to. I can talk to Mark and I can communicate the information using our video call feature. I'm just going to close this session right now. So it is as simple as that. You can simply go ahead, establish a video call, and interact with your end user. Now let's go back to the presentation. So these are the operations that we discussed on the product console. Started with task manager, we ran into processes, services. We also had a view on various alerts and notifications using remote command prompt, check disk, disk cleanup and defrag. We configured them, we scheduled them, and then we came down to notify the user using video chat. So we are on the end of use case 2. We discussed about the architecture, then about troubleshooting, Wi-Fi installing Adobe Acrobat using collaborative remote session, and now about system slowness. So any questions you have, please feel free to reach us via chat. All right. Use case: enforcing IT policies on desktops. So assume you got an email from one of your, probably one of your managers or your department. They say you'll have to enforce certain policies on power management. You want to cut down your electricity bills. So these are the features in Desktop Central which can help you customize your requirement. You can perform various operations like troubleshooting, remotely restarting a computer, shutting down a computer, wake computers. You can perform all these operations remotely. So let me take you to the product. Here we go. Again, we're going to click on tools, and we have various options here. Wake on LAN. I'm just going to click on wake on LAN. So you can schedule your wake up requirements. I'm going to click schedule, and here are a few predefined configurations. I'll probably edit one of those for you. I'm going to click on modify. So this feature lets you to customize a configuration. You can create a configuration for every single remote office. Assume you wanted to, because every remote site works on different time zones, whatnot. Even within the same remote office, you will have various departments where certain users will work throughout the night and the computers will be turned on ideal throughout the day. And there'll be users who will work only during the day on a regular basis. So you can create various scheduled wake-up tasks and customize it based on your own requirement. When I say this, it could be for various departments or various remote office. You can define it in your target. So I'm going to specify what is my requirement, and I'm going to declare the port numbers that I'm going to do, and I'm going to specify the time limit. When I say the time limit, how and when should this happen? Okay, and then I'm going to choose the computers that I want to add here. I'm going to choose computers, say one particular computer or a specific remote office, and how frequent should this operation be performed? Should it be performed every single day, or should it happen just once? You can customize it, and then you can push your configuration. Just like wake on LAN, you can also customize remote shutdown, which means this works in a combination. You can actually group both these requirements. You can create one other configuration, and this configuration you can enforce it like either you want to shut down the computer or you want to restart the computer, probably hibernate it, or just lock down the computer. You can do that. And whenever you shut down a computer, of course, there are a lot of parameters that we'll have to watch out for. Number one, you'll always have to look out for users, just in case you have users available. You really can't force shut down the computer. In such cases, you can customize the option and say you should not disturb if the users are actively using the computer. Or you can also provide the feasibility where you can allow users to shut down or skip this operation. Okay. Or if you are very confident, probably you have strict policies in place, you're very confident, then you can go ahead and force shutdown or force this operation on a computer. So all of these computers and push it across to your network. All right. So once it is done, now that you're familiar with these tasks, you can actually remotely shut down computers. You can also configure remote wake on LAN operation. So when both of these are feasible, obviously you can cut down your power bills. And how do you ever know that if this works effectively? And how do you, even if you might know that, how would you actually report it back to your management? Let's click on reports. So you can simply click on reports. Okay. And towards the left, you have power management report. And here you go, it's system uptime report. So this report gives you details on how many hours the machine was up and what quantity of time that you have saved using these configurations. All right, now let's go back to the presentation. So we are talking about capabilities of remotely restarting a computer, shutting down a computer, configuring wake on LAN, and scheduling it periodically, applying it for groups, and generating reports for your management purpose. So the last scenario or the last use case that I wanted to talk here is about notifying users when there is a critical situation. Okay, usually we send out a lot of tests, the email server is down. What if your Microsoft Exchange server is down and you really wanted to notify users? Imagine whenever your server goes down, your Exchange server goes down, your help desk is going to be bombarded with calls. They're going to, every mobile phone and every desk phone on that particular IT room is going to scream out with too many requests. So in such occasions, you can leverage Desktop Central's announcement feature, which will let you create an announcement and throw it onto the end user's desktop. Desktop Central's agent has the capability to throw up announcements either just once or you want to schedule it, you can start throwing up announcements to users. So whenever you throw up announcements using Desktop Central agent, it doesn't require your mail server or any other source. It's all about the agent and server communication. So you can shoot out critical announcements. You can probably tell them, yes, we are aware that the mail server is down. Please don't keep raising requests. It will be fixed within 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatsoever it is. Okay. So this is going to be one handy feature where you can always reach out to a group of users, in few simple clicks and share the message across. All right. So now that we are done with the use cases, we cherry picked few use cases and we had them all in solutions. So how do I measure the time spent by technicians who are handling tickets related to desktops? This is going to be an interesting question because many times we might not know what quantity of time a technician spends on troubleshooting a computer. So let me take you back to the product. In fact, I'm going to take you to a product where we initiated the remote session. I hope you remember John, as the first person, initiated the remote session, was trying to troubleshoot a machine for system slowness. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move out to Service Desk Plus, which is the help desk tool integrated with Desktop Central. Here we go. And the ticket number that was used was 489. When I initiated the remote session, I specified a ticket number. Let me go back to the product and give you a quick view on it. Tools, remote control. I'm sure this should be boring for you because I've done this so many times. However, I'm simply going to try connecting any of the machines right now. Okay. And here you find a STP ticket number. So this is where I can feed in a ticket number, which will automatically get logged to your help desk ticket. And now when I go back to my help desk console and search for a particular ticket number, I just search for a ticket number, and here I find the details. Okay, when was this ticket open? How long did this technician work on this particular ticket? What is the time spent on the remote session, you can get to know all these details. Now, scenario 2. We would like to monitor the activities of students in our school without their knowledge. Is this possible? This is an interesting requirement. Of course, it is possible. It is not just for students. There are cases where we might have contract employees, who would be there trying to troubleshoot one of your critical servers. Assume it's a financial institution and you have a contract employee trying to troubleshoot it. So this is really vital that you'll have to monitor the remote computer's performance even without your knowledge at times. So yes, Desktop Central gives you the feasibility. You can use Desktop Central's remote control feature. Again, we're going to head back to Tools, Remote Control. And we have a lot of things that you can customize. So far, we are working around only with computers, but now that we have settings, okay, and we have a lot of other operations where we can customize it. And with reference to the user's privilege, you really want the users to be aware of it or not, you can configure it here. So the first thing that you do is prompt for user confirmation. So I'll come back to this screen again, probably. This is practically feasible using Desktop Central. The third scenario is quite contradicting to the second one. We are a health regulation such as HIPAA. So how do we handle it? Yes, Desktop Central supports HIPAA compliance, which means this is exactly where we'll have to head back to the product. Okay, so enforcing this prompt will ensure that every time I establish a remote connection, the end user will be prompted, and only when the end user accepts to establish a connection, the technician will gain control on the remote machine. So it works both the ways. Just in case you wanted to shadow a remote user silently without the user's knowledge, you can do that. Or assuming in fact that you wanted to enforce this as a policy, as a security policy based on HIPAA compliance, yes, you can enable it. And of course, you can see to it that all your remote control sessions are forewarned, and only when the user confirms, only after the user approves, the connection is established. Okay. The next question. Installing and configuring. So I want to document the whole process and use it as training material for newcomers. Is it possible? Desktop Central. Within remote control, we have an option called screen recording. So if I choose to enable the screen recording, the complete remote session will be recorded and stored on the agent computer. At the end of the remote session, once they complete the remote control session, then the recording will be shared back to the server. So all these recordings will finally be served on the Desktop Central server. Recording can be used for training purpose, not just that. These recordings can be used for audit purpose, which is going to be really, really important. Sometime down the line, if you have an auditor who is going to walk up to your auditing purpose, you can definitely throw back these data and say, these are the remote sessions, that we have established, and here you can find training for auditing. And there was another case that we discussed a couple of minutes ago. If you have a contract employee walking in for a critical troubleshooting requirement, this remote recording feature will again help you to go back and always verify what kind of operations the contract employee performed at a specific remote session. Now, I find my remote sessions are slow when I'm in different country, probably roaming users. How do I fix it? Yes, you can customize the performance. You can choose what quality of screenshot should be sent. You want to make it as, you want the resolution to be high or low. Are you expecting for better resolution with faster quality, or what is more important for you? You can customize the settings here under remote control. So one of the employees suspect an unauthorized remote access to his or her machine. So how do you go back and trace it? If we go back here, history under remote control settings will let you go down and verify whatever connections have been established so far. You have complete track record here. So we are moving out to questions. So question number 1, I'm running Desktop Central app on my mobile. Can I initiate remote control via app? This is the key selling feature of Desktop Central. Trust me, it is. Every time we talk to customers, customers get so excited because establishing remote connection from a mobile device is just seamless as we did right now. Okay, all you got to do is just to download Desktop Central app on your mobile phone, be it your iOS or your Android device. And once you install your Desktop Central app, you can simply key in your server details. You can authenticate yourself using the authentication, and this is how it appears on the Desktop Central mobile, and you can pick the computer. So again, you should definitely test it out. Trust me, it works so seamless, and establishing remote connection from a mobile phone, be it your iPhone, tablet, or iPad, or Android device, it's going to be really, really easy and helpful for you. Okay, so this is how it appears. You have all these settings, just like the one that we demonstrated right now on a PC. You can perform all these operations on your mobile device too. All right. Question number 2. Does the screen recording need to be turned on before you establish the remote session, or can it be turned on during the session? Okay. So this is like, I'll have to establish a remote session, and can I turn on the recording during the session? This is the question. If we go back to the product, I think we discussed on screen recording. You'll have to enable it once before the session, and during the session, you'll not have the feasibility to enable screen recording feature. So you'll have to, enable it beforehand so that you can record your remote sessions. So to allow multiple technicians work on the same remote session, does it require any additional license from ManageEngine? No, it doesn't require any additional license. Assume you have fully, even all the 5 technicians can log in during the same remote session. You have 50 technicians, whatnot. Even the 50 people can try, connecting to the same session, which means obviously it doesn't require any additional license. In specific cases, after troubleshooting a remote computer, the machine needs a restart. How do I re-establish or reconnect the remote session? Okay, this is a remote control feature. During your troubleshooting process, if you intend to restart a machine, your remote connection will not be dropped. Hope you heard me correct. Even after a remote reboot, continue your remote control process. My remote control screen shows port 844 is used by some other application. How do I resolve? It's pretty simple. You can go down to the product again, and you can want it to use port. So on the tools, you have an option called port settings. You can click on port settings, and you can customize it. So is it possible to take remote control of a roaming user? Many times we get requests from work from home users or sales guys who keep roaming. Yes, you can pretty well go ahead and establish a remote connection of a roaming user, since we have agents installed on those computers, and as long as the agent is good enough to reach the Desktop Central server, obviously you don't have anything to worry about while establishing a remote connection. Does it automatically disable for the new technician sharing the session? Okay, I think this user got it wrong. When I say disabling the remote keyboard or mouse, this is only for the end user and not for the technician who's going to join or share the session. So when I have multiple technicians joining a session, which means the technician can actually choose active mode or view only mode just to join the session and take control of the session. So it is disabling the keyboard and mouse only for the end user's computer, not for the technician who is joining the session. Okay, so we have come to the end of the presentation. Hope I have not exceeded my 60-minute time interval. So you can rate us on a scale of 1 to 5. If you like the presentation, you can rate it as on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 being the best. You can also spread a word about ManageEngine's free training. We would love to hear from you. And the next training is scheduled on configurations and hidden tricks, which is going to be on the 2nd of May, almost 60 minutes ahead on the same time next week. Apart from the general discussions that we had so far, the training program that we had so far, if you are viewing it for the first time and you're really interested to get a personalized demo on other features like patch management, software deployment, or you are OS imaging and deployment capabilities, you can always schedule a personalized free demo for you. So at the end of this session, a survey will be thrown up. You can rate our training module as well as the presenter, and of course, you can opt in for a personalized demo by offering you a personalized free demo fee. So I should really thank every one of you for your wonderful time. Thank you all. Catch you next week with the next topic.